How many of you grew up in the 80s and the 90s? Okay. How many of you grew up watching TV? How many of you ever grew up watching a show called Friends? Okay. How many of you ever heard of the whole I was on a break thing from Friends? Okay, some of you have heard it. Do any of you remember that event in the show's history? Okay, some of you do. Looking back on it, I think the show's terrible for certain reasons. But when I was growing up, I used to watch it a lot. I think because my sister watched it, and so we were all watching it. I remember when that episode, that specific episode was on TV. I don't know if it was the first airing of it or if it was a repeat or what it was, but I remember watching it. And these two characters on the show, Ross and Rachel, have been dating, and they end up in an argument, and they go on a break. So they don't necessarily break up, they're just taking a break from each other, or whatever that means. And so Ross ends up going, because he's on a break, he ends up feeling so emotionally distraught that he goes and he finds another girl and he sleeps with her. And then Rachel finds out, and they get into this big argument because he says, well, we were on a break, so it doesn't count, I wasn't cheating on you, and she still feels betrayed. And then this happens.
These arms, heart, your heart.
No. You're a totally different person to me now. I used to think of you as somebody that would never, ever hurt me. Ever. God, and I just kept up picturing you with her. It doesn't matter what you say or what you do. It's just changed everything. Forever. That outcome is
So that happens, and we're all in the living room and we're watching this show. And Mom says, now kids, don't ever do that. And my brother pipes up and says, seriously, Mom? We're supposed to take advice from a TV show? We're supposed to take advice from a TV show? How many of you have ever taken advice from a TV show? How many of you have ever taken advice from a TV show, movies, or music? Any? Okay, some of you that say you maybe not. How many of you have ever been influenced by a TV show or a movie or a magazine or music of any sort like that? Okay, even if you are here tonight and you think, no, I've never been influenced by all those things. They go in one ear, out the other. They have no effect on me. I wonder if you ever have or not. I wonder if you ever have or not. I wonder if sometimes you felt or we felt like we're just not enough. You look at yourself in the mirror and you feel kind of upset or depressed because you're not as good looking or as strong or as attractive as what you see on TV, and you feel like, man, if I'm just never going to be that. I'm never going to look like that. I'm never going to feel like that. I'm never going to have that kind of attraction around me. And really, that's what I'm seeing, so that's what I should be, and I'm not. And you get this feeling of insecurity and depression from it. Or maybe you're in the realm where you've watched a show or you've watched movies and listened to music, and you get this feeling that the relationships you're in or your marriage or your lack of relationships are complete failures because they're not as romantic or as engaging or as exciting as what you see and what these shows and this media says it's supposed to be. Maybe you're in the situation where you watch TV and you look at magazines and you're consistently watching commercials and seeing these people with these perfect living room sets and these huge TVs and these nice cars and these great opportunities, and somehow these people they have enough money that they're able to do whatever they want with their free time regardless of anything that happens. And not only that, but what happens one day doesn't necessarily affect what happens the next day. And you look at all this and you think, man, I gotta get that couch. Man, I gotta get that car. Man, I really need that extra seat. Man, I really want that stereo. I need those headphones. I need whatever it is that they're showing and whatever it is that makes them happy on this show. I really need to start wearing those clothes that they've got on. Maybe you start thinking, man, if only I had money like them, then I could live the way I want. Maybe you're in the situation where you spend a lot of time on like YouTube and online and social media, and you're constantly bombarded with how great everyone else's life is, and you feel like you are just wasting time, that you are really worthless, and you wonder, how come my life has all these problems and everybody else seems to have all these great opportunities? How come they get all this attention and I'm left here all by myself? Maybe you're in the situation where you see all these things and you watch TV and you watch movies, and you've tried out a lot of these things that you've seen other people do, and you've tried out the scenes that they talk about on social media, and you've tried it, and now you just feel used and dirty and lost. Are you supposed to take advice from TV? How are we supposed to deal with this? How are we supposed to investigate this? Let me tell you right now, this is not a TV is evil sermon, okay? That's not the point of this sermon. If you're thinking that I'm just going to go on this big rant about how the internet and TV has caused all of our children to rot and we are all going to hell because of the evils of the tube, no, that's not what this message is about, okay? So everyone just breathe. That's not what I'm going to say. What this message is about discernment. Discernment. And this is something that Jesus talked about in one of the most obscure, confusing passages I have ever read and only managed to figure out 3 weeks ago. Matthew chapter 6. You don't need to turn there, but you'll be familiar with the passage. If you've read the book of Matthew, if you spent any time in the Gospels, you'll probably recognize this passage because it probably didn't make any sense to you when you read it. It says in Matthew chapter 6, "The eye is the lamp of the body, so if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness?" Now some of you might be here and you're thinking, that's not confusing at all, that makes perfect sense. At which point, my hat's off to you, because I've been reading this passage for like 20 years and only figured it out 2 weeks ago. Like, this was just baffling. Like, what is he trying to say? That the lamp is the eye is the lamp of the body? there's no light that goes inside of, what he's talking about is discernment, perception, understanding. Let me give you an example. I wear contacts, okay, contact lenses. If I don't have the corrective lenses and I'm driving down the road and I'm trying to navigate from point A to point B and I can't read the signs, am I going to get from point A to point B? No. Because if my eyes are bad, I get the wrong information. If I've got a ball of styrofoam next to an apple, and my eyes aren't working right, and I just look at the two of them, I'm not going to be able to tell which one to pick up and eat. If my eyes are bad, I don't discern, I can't tell what the situation is clearly, and I end up making the wrong decision. But if my eye is healthy, I can clearly see what the road signs say, and I can clearly see which is a styrofoam ball and which is an apple. And so what Jesus is saying is, if you can discern, if your eyes, your discernment, your ability to tell what is right and wrong and what to do with it, if that is good, then you'll get good information and you'll be healthy. But if you can look at a situation and you don't interpret it correctly because you can't see it properly, because your eyes aren't healthy, you'll be unhealthy. And so that's why he says, the eye is the lamp of the body. It has to be healthy for there to be light inside of you. And how that happens with our lives is, if you look at a situation, a moral situation or any situation in life, and you don't see it correctly, your life is going to be unhealthy. But if you can look at a situation and you can discern what is right and wrong and what to do with it, then you'll have a healthy life. Then you will be filled with light. So let's dig into this discernment thing. If we want to be able to figure out what to do with media, let's figure out this discernment thing. And as I've said, discernment is seeing what is right and what's wrong and then knowing what to do about it. Seeing what's right and what's wrong and knowing what to do about it. And there are two aspects of that. First aspect is clarity. Clarity. Seeing the situation for what's really going on. Understanding it. And you come to that conclusion based on two basic questions. Your first question is, what is it saying? And why is it saying it? What is it saying? And why is it saying it? So, let's look at the road sign. You look at the road sign and you ask, what is it saying? Well, the road sign says that Perth-Andover's ahead in 25 kilometers. Okay, that's what it's saying. Why is it saying that? It's saying that to give you direction. Okay, cool. Let's look at a TV show. Let's take Friends, or the modern day Friends, which is the Big Bang Theory. Let's look at that. What does that say? In a nutshell, that says friends are valuable. Okay? Friends are valuable. Why is it saying it? It's saying it because it wants you to watch the show so that they can sell you something. That's what's really going on. The show is not there to encourage you to have friends. It's there to encourage you to sit through the whole thing so that you can watch the ads so that you can buy what they're advertising. That's why. So if we go look at it and we say, what is it saying? And then we ask, why is it saying it? That gives us a picture of the content. And then you've got to figure out what to do with it. And so you have clarity, and then you have action. The two aspects of discernment, clarity and action. Now, action is knowing what to do with it. seeing what's right and what's wrong, and then knowing what to do with it. And so, how do you know what to do with it? I want you to turn here. Philippians chapter 4. Now, in a perfect scenario, I would say you know what to do in these situations because you know what God says. You know God's word, you know God, and anything that reflects God's character is something you keep, and everything that doesn't reflect God's character, you don't keep. Okay, but we don't have time to go through the entire biblical text or get into all of God's character, and so I'm going to give you one simple passage that is a great guide for it. Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. The writer of this book, Paul, he says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." Think about such things. And so let's go back to the Friends or Big Bang Theory. Okay, so it's saying that friends are good. Is that true? Noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy? Yeah? Yep. It using that in order to sell you something? Is that true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, or praiseworthy? Let's look at another situation. Let's think about another show, or maybe a movie. Think of the movie Tears of the Sun. It's got Bruce Willis in it. Okay, it's a movie. These soldiers, they go into Africa, and there's tons of violence in the movie, but they're going to save some people. And so, what does it say? It says that evil happens in the world. That's what it says. Why is it saying it? If you watch the movie, it says it because it wants us to stop just letting it happen. Okay? Now, is the violence in the movie, is that true? Yeah, pretty much. Is the violence of it noble? Right or pure or lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy? Maybe. And I say maybe because of why. That's why we asked the two questions. What does it say and why does it say it? Now it doesn't fit all these things. And it doesn't fit all these things in the what does it say or why does it say it. And so then you've got to figure out if it's not those things, or if it is those things, should I focus on it or should I not focus on it? Discernment is seeing what's right, what's wrong, and knowing what to do with it. And so there are certain aspects of the Big Bang Theory that would be true, noble, lovely, admirable. There are aspects that aren't. There are certain aspects of Tears of the Sun that are true, noble, pure, admirable. And there are certain aspects that aren't. And so, you focus on the good stuff and you get rid of the bad. Okay, we can live with that. But what is really the bad? How do we know when we should really cut it out? It says in Galatians, I'm reading from the Message for this one. It says in Galatians, it is obvious what kind of life develops out of trying to get your own way all the time. Repetitive, loveless, cheap sex. A stinking accumulation of mental and emotional garbage, frenzied and joyless grabs for happiness, trinket gods, magic show religion, paranoid loneliness, cutthroat competition, all-consuming yet never satisfied wants, a brutal temper, an impotence to love or to be loved, divided homes and divided lives, small-minded and lopsided pursuits, the vicious habit of depersonalizing everyone into a rival, uncontrolled and uncontrollable addictions, ugly parodies of community, and I could go on. Now, I'm giving you this as a guide. And really, as I said, you really want to unpack the entire biblical text to have an understanding of God's character. But I want us to avoid the idea that just because something has one bad element in it, that the whole thing is awful. Honestly, Tears of the Sun is one of my favorite movies. Because of the message it says, because it is so very noble. And that it's not saying these things to make it happen more and to say all this injustice and all this violence is good and it's entertaining and you should watch it and you should make it happen anymore. That's not the message of it. The message is, here it is, here is this terrible situation. I'm giving this to you to inform you and to ask you to stop it. But I have a problem with watching a show like The Big Bang Theory, because even though there are some true and lovely and excellent elements to it, it's doing it because it wants to use us. It's doing it because it wants to use us. It wants to sell us something. So what if we applied this to our lives? If you're watching a movie or you're listening to music and you're starting to feel like you're never going to attain what you're supposed to be, you're never going to look like them, you're never going to have the relationships like them, and you ask the question, okay, am I watching, is it true? And you looked at all the models and the magazine pictures and everything, and you realize that it's all fake. And you said, well, if it's not true, I'm not going to focus on it. What would happen if you were watching all these dramas and these romance movies and you started questioning your commitment to your partner because it just doesn't live up to what it seems like it's supposed to be? And you said, well, wait a second. Is that right or lovely? Is that pure? No. And so you cut it out and you stop focusing on it? How about if you're watching TV or you're reading magazines and you've got all these commercials coming on and you ask, what is it saying and why is it saying it? And you realize that it's so much there just to sell me something. And make no mistake, it is there to sell you something. It's not there to make your life better. Okay? If it's there to make your life better, like if what it's advertising is supposed to make your life better, then the advertisers will be out of a job because you'll be content. Okay? And so it's there to make you want something that you don't need and still leave you unsatisfied. And so what if you watch these shows and you watch these ads and you read these magazines and you said, I'm not going to focus on that stuff. I'm going to cut that out. I'm not going to watch endless hours of TV. I'm going to watch my one show and then be done. And decide to focus on something else. What about if you're dealing with social media and the internet and you really feel like your life is wasting away, or like you you don't have a purpose or meaning or value to your life because you just don't match up to everybody else. And you ask these same questions. What is it saying? Why is it saying? Why is it saying it? And then you look at it and you say, well, is it true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy? Now, out of everything I've seen on Facebook, very little of it would fall into this category. What if we decided to focus on that instead of Facebook and YouTube and what's online? Is there good content on TV? Sure. Are there good movies with good content? Yeah. Is there good use to social media? Absolutely. But if you want to be healthy, you've got to be able to discern what to focus on and what not to focus on. You've got to be able to ask, what is it saying? And why is it saying it? And then put it up against the Word of God and see whether you should keep it or not. What if we focus more on this? What would happen in our lives if we focused more on this than on the media? What would happen in our lives if we started living this stuff out rather than what every hip-hop song tells us we need? What if this became the main influence in our lives rather than what TV show is on next? Or what the actor in that certain show says? Or what that certain singer is promoting? If you want a healthy life, you need healthy eyes. If you have unhealthy eyes, you're going to have an unhealthy life. If you want a healthy life, you need to be able to discern what's right and what's wrong and what to do with it. So I've got these done up. John, you want to come help me with this? What these are stickers. Some of them just say, what is it saying? Why? Philippians 4:8. And some of them actually say, what is it saying? Why? True, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy, Philippians 4:8. Okay? What I want you to do with this is, if you've got a phone, I want you to put this on the back of your phone. Okay? Because most of you either have it on you at all times when you're watching TV or when you're surfing online or whatever. I want you to put this on there so that it's always with you, and so that when your phone's upside down or it's just in your hand and you feel the sticker, you look at it, and when you're watching whatever, or you're taking in any sort of media content, you ask, what is it actually saying? Why is it saying it? And what do I do about it? If you don't have a phone, I bet you have a TV remote. Put it on the back of your TV remote. Because that way, whenever you're surfing the channels, the sticker will be right there, and you might look at it and be reminded, what is this actually saying? Why is it saying it? And what should I do about it?